Hi, I'm Dean Orgill and I'm here as chair of the Inspire group, which is part of the Gatwick Diamond Initiative.
How can young people best prepare themselves for work?
I think the key skills that young people need when going into work are not necessarily the things that you will learn in your academic studies. What an employer is looking for is someone who can communicate, someone who can relate to other people, and I think that applies regardless of what sector or industry you might be going into, whether it's retail or whether it's just working with teams and never meeting the public. I think communication skills are very important for any employment role.
What general skills do young people need when starting the first job?
I've mentioned just communication.
Yeah.
You need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to listen and take on board. I think any good employer will not expect people to be able to do the job on day one, but they will want people to be willing to listen and to learn. I was fortunate many years ago when I was working, some of my first jobs were in bars, and the landlords there, they were good people to work for, and I realised later. And one of the key things I remember them saying to me was, I don't really mind if you make a mistake. I do mind if you keep making that mistake again after I've told you how to do something right. So I think the ability to listen is a key part of the communication as well.
Okay. So what would you say was the most important employability skill in your opinion?
As well as the communication, it's confidence. Be prepared to try, be prepared to fail sometimes. You won't get everything right at first time. That's not the end of the world. Sometimes people can be a little bit hesitant to do something in case it doesn't work out. I think if you try and you try hard and you try honestly, most people will forgive you if it doesn't work first time. So don't give up. You will need some perseverance.
What does a typical day look like for someone in your position?
In the role that I have within Gatwick Diamond Initiative, it's not a day-to-day role, so that will just be some communications, some emails in, some reading of papers, and generally trying to keep up with what is happening, so news feeds and so on. My day job, as it were, I'm a solicitor, so I will be receiving communications about the matters that I'm handling for clients, speaking to clients on the telephone, emailing out, going to meetings. I'm happy to say that I don't have 2 days the same, which I think is a real plus for the role that I have. But it's largely dealing with communications in and out and relating to people, understanding their problems. Because the area that I work in, people that come to me have got problems because I deal with disputes. So it's being able to understand not only what the issues are, but also how they might be feeling about those issues and trying to do something about it for them.
What qualifications and experience would a young person need to have to increase their chances of getting a job in your sector?
In my sector, which I'll move to the legal sector, there are various roles. If you're going to go into to be a solicitor, for example, you will need effectively to have gone through some professional training, be that degree and then a finals course, or predominantly professional training after you've obtained a degree. So the qualification levels there academically are quite high, and even once you've done that, you have to go through a training contract of 2 years with a training partner who is responsible for you. So the path into that as a solicitor is academically quite challenging. There are other ways of getting into being a legal advisor, such as the legal executives route. But we also, as a firm that employs nearly 200 people, obviously have people who work within the administration, within reception, within archiving, transport, and so on, and their paths in will be very different. Some will be able to carry out their roles with little or no academic qualifications. Others will have them at different levels. Ultimately, though, the experience in the person is still quite key, because it doesn't matter how qualified you are. If you can't relate to people, you won't be able to help them. You could write the most beautiful essay dealing with what the solution to the problem is, but if you then can't can't explain that to the client or put it across to the court, it's not going to get you very far.
Do you give work experience for young people?
We do, and we think that's important, and we have a programme, and we have one partner who's in charge of that and organises a rota through many months so that people can come in and have proper experience, not just come in, make the tea and work the photocopier. But to do that is a commitment on our part, because it means people need to have procedures explained to them and why we're doing things, which is quite a commitment to a busy person who's got a caseload to run. But we do think it's important to do that so that people can decide whether they want to come into our profession. Sometimes it looks, I was going to say exciting, but you probably wouldn't take that one. But sometimes it's not as exciting as it may appear, and you need to know the good and the bad, I think, of any role. And the only way you can do that is to actually see it in action, be there from first thing in the morning till when people go home in the evening, and get a real proper feel for what it is, rather than what you might have seen on the telly, which is not necessarily an accurate representation.
What would you look for on a young person's CV?
I would look for how they have described themselves, to see how that person can put themselves across. I would look to see something that shows some evidence of them being able to do something more than pass exams. So have they been off and done something, say on a community basis? Have they taken some time to go and travel? Not necessarily they've been away for the last 6 years or whatever, but have they broadened their horizons? Because I think experience that you will have gained elsewhere you can bring into the role. A lot of the people that we have, even qualified as solicitors, didn't just do their legal training. They perhaps qualified in something else first, and then they bring that knowledge and expertise and that general experience of life into the role as a lawyer, which is very valuable, because, as I said, we need to be able to talk to people and relate to them. So it's something that will make the person stand out as a person. When we take even qualified staff, we want people who will be able to go into a room and talk to other people, because it may be that we will go into a room where there are 6 other lawyers, and everybody wants the other people in the room to come to them if they have a legal need, and therefore our people need to stand out. They need to be the people that other people like to talk to. So I'm looking for those sorts of skills. How will people be able to get on? If I'm going to be talking to them for 10 minutes, will we have something to talk about? Not just what grades did you get. The academic grades are important, but they're the base, if you like. It's the rest of the person that will make the difference between you being selected for a role or not. You won't get it if you haven't got the grades, so don't give up on the grades and think I'm a wonderful, happy person, therefore I'll sail through life. You've got to get the grades, but it's the other bits that will make you stand out.
You talked about having qualifications like university to get into your sector, but is an apprenticeship also a good way of getting into the sector?
Into some of the administration and managerial positions, yes. In terms of being able to qualify, say, as a solicitor or barrister, the apprenticeships don't take you to that. You won't get there on those, but there are roles within the firm. As I said, we're a large organisation, and therefore we need finance people, finance directors, practice directors, IT people are all part of the firm. But to be qualified as if you like, a pure lawyer, you need to go through that route to be able to qualify.
What made you choose to work for the company that you do?
Well, I've been there quite a while now. I started in 1987, shortly after I qualified as a solicitor, and I've never looked out and felt that there was anywhere else that I would like to be, and that is to do with the people and the fact that we as a partnership, which is what we are, want to look after each other, and we're not cutthroat. We take care of our people that work for us. They're important to us, and we as a partnership feel that life as well as work is important. So we do have other interests, and we encourage people to have other interests, because again that feeds into the person being interesting. If someone just wanted to talk to you about law all the time, you would think they were incredibly dull. I would, and I'm a lawyer.
Do your employees have a chance to move up their career positions into your company?
Yes, at various different levels. We've had people that have come in as what we call paralegals. Often they've got a degree but haven't completed the training contract. They will work with us for a few months so that we can assess whether they will be an appropriate person to give a training contract to, because that's a fixed 2-year contract. So it's quite a big commitment to take someone on that basis and commit to training them for 2 years. And we have had people that have done that, who have gone through to the training contract and who are now employed as solicitors. At least one of my partners was a trainee in the firm and then a solicitor and then a partner. But also in the administrative roles, my secretary came in on what was then called the YTS scheme, Youth Training Scheme, and she has been working with me as I'm now chairman of the firm for 19 years. So people have come in at various levels and moved on. We do sit down with everybody once a year and have a performance review, and we try to set people individual personal progress plans. So if they say, I want to be able to move into doing this, or I want to improve my skills on something that would be of value to the business as well as the person, and then we encourage that. For us, it makes for a better motivated staff, that they're able to progress and move forward. And we have had people who have been secretaries and then gone on to take their legal qualifications and be taken on as legally qualified for years.
What are the minimal qualifications needed to work in companies in your sector?
Well, it depends really where you're coming into the role. As I say, if you're going to be a solicitor, there's effectively the degree, or if you're going to be a legal executive, I think there is an A-level requirement. For people coming into the finance and administration, our finance director is an accountant. Our HR person has HR qualifications, and within the administration, then we have people perhaps with no formal qualifications at all, but who came in several years ago, have proved that they're able to do the job and then have progressed. So it's a bit of a mixed bag really, in, depending on where you come into it. As I say, we like to see that people have qualifications, but really that's, I think, to assure us of a minimum academic understanding, if you like, that people have. They have a level of academic prowess that we can just then take for granted.